Godfrey, welcome back.
Good to be here.
Yeah, as last time we did this, we were just audio only, and now we're video. Now people can see your cool sunglasses. And
let me explain.
Such a rock star, man. You are such a rocker. I mean, true to the title.
I don't normally wear them inside, but I broke my regular glasses on the flight coming over.
I think it's awesome. I think
I have to wear these prescription sunglasses inside. I got some from Target. Is it these?
What do those look like?
Well, my wife said I look like an owl with them on.
You should put them on real quick. Let's see.
She said I look kind of educated, Let's see, which is just not me really. But there you go.
Those are very hipster.
I'll stay with these.
The sunglasses are cool. Don't take them off.
I'm used to them. Yeah.
Hey, so it's been a year since you've been here.
Yeah.
And a lot's going on, but it's just so cool that you're back, because I know last time you were here, you were trying to kind of like steward your time a little bit more carefully, and so you've been in like this incredible season for the last year. What's it been like?
Yeah, well, at the end of 18, December 19th of December, I became 65, which in the UK, I don't know about here, in the UK that's retirement age. It's pension age.
It's Medicare age here in America.
Right. Okay.
Free medical.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Absolutely.
Oh, free. Yeah. Well, we get the NHS in the UK, but so when at 65, I'd had a really intense kind of year previously of traveling, like all over the place, a lot of flying, Canada, all over the place with my wife. And so she kind of suggested I take a break for a while. So for the first 6 months of this year, really, I've kind of taken it a lot easier, hardly anything really for 6 months, sort of just cooled right off, and it's been interesting. I'm not good at doing nothing though, you know what I mean?
Yeah, what's interesting about that is that, so your wife said, Godfrey, you need to take a break, and you listened to her. I mean, that's an incredible testament to your marriage.
I always listen to her. Although she says I do have a face that looks like I'm listening, but and she has to grab my face sometimes and say, "Are you listening?"
So when Gill said, "Hey, God, you should rest," that didn't feel painful to your soul?
Well, I was kind of there was one of the tours, I won't say where, but last year was a long, like a month.
Where was it?
Flight every day jobs, and we came back sort of out of pocket and everything, and Gill said, "I think we need to stop doing these long tours and take a break," and I kind of agreed, and so and it's been good. It's been good to kind of take it easy. But just about a month or so back, Gill and myself, we went to our hometown in Lancashire, and there's a hotel there that has a sauna that I really love, because it's like really private and everything, and so I was really looking forward to that. And I went to the swimming pool and saw the sauna had a sign on it saying "out of service," and I thought, oh man, come to this hotel especially for this sauna. And but sort of being under grace, not under law, I kind of opened the door, and I thought, well, there's a bit of heat in there, I'll just go in there and have a look. And I went in the out of service sauna, and I thought I can get this thing going, and I put a bit of water on the coals, and after a while it got pretty hot, Anyway, this guy arrives and opens the door in overalls, the maintenance man, and he says to me, "Is that hot enough for you?" I said, yeah, it's pretty good. I thought I was going to be in trouble. He said, "Is it hot enough?" I said, "Yeah, it's great." He said, right. He said, "I put a new element in you. You'll be fine." And he said, "I put a new element in you," which I thought was a strange thing. And then he said, "I'm going to take the out of service off now." And it felt like one of those moments where God was speaking to me,
It was like a prophet.
The maintenance man, like an angel, Like I've put a new element in you. In Lancashire, in here. It could have been here, but it sounded to me like in you. I put a new element in you, and I'm going to take the out of service off you now. In other words, it was like the Lord was saying, "Come on now. rise up again, you know?
Yeah, it was like that's like a recommissioning.
Yeah, it was, yeah. It felt like, you know, I put a new element in you to go for it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe not exactly the same, you know, and I'm not going full out traveling and stuff, but you know, you know, it was like the Lord was saying, you're not out of service. You know
Amen,
what I mean?
amen, amen. Hey, you know, one of the things that's interesting, like when it comes to like leadership and discipleship and that conversation, you know, oftentimes, so I heard this recently, like that there are different. So I read a book called The Leadership Pipeline, talks about different levels of leadership, and when it says that, like a level 1 leader, somebody that just leads himself, they execute task, and then a level 2 is somebody that's leading leaders. And then level 3, leading leaders who are leading, and so on and so forth, right? And so the it was a very heady book. It was too dense for me. I tried to read it, but a friend of mine actually was able to contextualize it to like church world. And and this guy's brilliant. And he said, you know, when it comes to worship leaders, to those that are leading people, they tend to be kind of level 1 in their leadership, in that they tend to approach leading worship like through the lenses of my task is to worship the Lord, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna you know. But they don't tend to really be leading leaders. So what I'm wondering is, I'm wondering if that is true, and what I'm wondering is if there's a void of kind of like mentoring up the next generation, like how leadership, like how discipleship looks like when it comes to worship and this kind of thing, and when it comes to you, if you've had seasons where you were like actively discipling other worship leaders, and if that was frustrating or if it was rewarding, and what that kind of looks like for you, and maybe you even feel like that statement is just a silly kind of statement. But I want to kind of throw this out to you as far as you, you're a papa when it comes to, I would say a general. You know, you're one of my favorite worship leaders, you and Steve Swanson, and that thing that God has put in you, and kind of what it looks like as far as, you know, being able to deposit that and impart that into the next generation.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? You know, because I don't think I purposely try to mentor someone as such, although there are one or two guys that would say that I have done, and maybe from a distance.
Okay.
And I look at my own situation that, do you know, I was like 43 when things started to take off for me.
Wow.
Quite old. And I think at that time I felt the Lord was showing me to be an encouragement to the over 40s.
Oh, really?
And I remember thinking, you know, we can have models. People we look at, you know, maybe, you know, as worship leaders, and maybe certain people we think, oh, that's cool, you know, I want to be a Darlene Check or whatever. Not me personally, but you know what I mean? But there comes a time where you have to break the model and be a model. And I would hate for someone to be a carbon copy of me.
Wow.
You know, to me, it's really important that as people, we don't become cans of Coke. All the same. Pop music, it's the same, tastes the same. For me as a worship leader, and to encourage other worship leaders in songwriting and whatever they do in their lives of worship, because, you know, that's what it is, it's about lives of worship. You know, I prefer them to be a bottle of wine, i.e. the uniqueness of wine. And the uniqueness, wine comes from an area. You know, it has a uniqueness. And so we've got a lot of cans of Coke that all sound the same.
Wow.
But I would encourage them, don't copy me. You may for a while if you want to, think you'd like to be like me, but most people wouldn't anyway. I wouldn't think, you know, what's that?
It's my angel.
Oh my goodness. But I'll let you have that. But to me it's important that you know, be a model, you know, model the uniqueness of who you are, you know, and what you carry, rather than a copy of someone else, you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good. Well, I know this for a fact. You ain't no can of Coke.
There's no other, liken that to pop music, or soda music.
There's no other. I like a pop music. Soda music.
You know what I mean? I like Coke, and Coke can be good. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I like a glass of Coke now and again, but I really feel, and it's fine. And it's fine that a lot of stuff sounds the same. I don't even mind that.
On that really quick. Did we talk about this last time? Did we talk about
No.
that you don't drink soda pop at restaurants? That you don't drink pop that's come out of a machine. It has to come in a can. Did we talk about that last time on the podcast? I don't think we did. That's a rumor. Is that if I take you to a restaurant, and we're going to do that here in a little bit, that if I take you to a restaurant, that you're going to request the soda come in the can.
Someone might have said that. I might have said that about me. I don't remember saying it to you personally. But yeah, I don't like it when it comes out of a machine. Yeah. If it's got to be Coke, it's got to be real Coke. Better still out of a bottle.
Because if it comes out of a machine, even if it has the Coke logo on it.
That's like roller cola. That's kind of, it depends how much syrup they put in it. And often it can be weak.
Yeah.
So we don't need any roller cola.
I remember last year when you came, I received an email from one of your friends about how to treat you and how to make sure.
That would probably be it.
Yeah. And so now everybody knows if you're going to bring in Godfrey, give him the cans, not something out of the machine.
But I don't drink much Coke these days.
No.
Right. Wine songs rather than cans of Coke.
That's really good.
People get together to write hits and that sometimes, in Nashville and places. Let's write a hit, and usually they end up cans of Coke that are very popular and great catchy tunes.
Yeah.
But release the uniqueness. Let's hear the uniqueness, and the wine.
Wine is interesting too because from what I understand about wine, so I'm not a wine connoisseur, but I've been studying quite a bit about wine.
Right.
So my palate wouldn't be developed enough to be able to discern regions and vintages and that kind of thing. But from what I understand, that somebody that does have a developed palate, they can actually taste the trauma that took place within a particular year and be able to place it on the region and the vintage. So which is fascinating to me. But the thing that I find very appealing about that is that it's the actual imperfection in a wine that sets off its uniqueness. So I'm thinking about in a time of pop music or soda music when there's so much done on post-production to cover up the blemishes or the imperfections of the artist. And so and there can be that kind of temptation even in the kingdom to kind of follow, and you could even say that might even be a little bit worldly, you could say, just having fun with that definition, but that perhaps there's an invitation to begin to celebrate the blemishes and the imperfection of the artist and to let that come forward.
Absolutely.
What do you think as far as capturing what kind of performance are you trying to capture when you do a recording? Are you looking for something that's where the performance is as unflawed as possible, or are you okay with certain blemishes coming through in the recording process? Because I know you have a high standard of excellence in your work as an artist.
If I was a perfectionist, I don't think I'd have done any albums. I wouldn't have released any. And the first time I did a recording like 20 odd years ago, it was a live recording because I hadn't got enough money to go in a studio and spend all the time. I had to just catch it and that's it.
Sure.
And so I put this album out. Is This the Beginning was the first one I did years ago. And it was very raw. And you could hear all the people there. You could hear like people, like one person clapping at one point, things like that, things that you'd normally, no things you'd edit out, you could hear every, human noise there, and I sent it out. There was one of them, there was a woman screaming all the way through, going, ah, like that all the way through. And I just put it out. And the feedback I got was, coming back to me, we love it. because it's like we're there.
Wow.
You know, and so I just carried on doing live recordings, kind of with kind of very little added to them.
Yeah.
And I remember someone saying they sound amateurish, you know, and but
somebody said
said
that about your work. It sounds amateurish.
the recording and the kind of albums, you know, and do you know? But I love the word amateur. You know, when I was a photographer, a press photographer, the most boring magazine was Professional Photographer.
Wow.
But the most exciting magazine was Amateur Photographer. You know, and you know the word amateur actually comes from a French word which means a lover.
Wow.
Amateur.
Wow.
A lover. And so, to me, it's good to be an amateur, you know, that we love what we're doing. We're lovers of the Lord and enjoying loving what we're doing. And being professional, sometimes it becomes so perfect, so slick, so fancy, so perfect, everything's set up absolutely bang on, you know what I mean? And it can become boring. So when I say amateur, I don't mean like a poor standard. You know, I like the sound to be right, you know, and I like it right and everything, but to make sure we're doing it in love, you know.
That's good. That's really good. And trying to think. Let's go this. What, like, when you are, what are you enjoying? Okay, I know, because there was two directions. Do go left or right? Okay. And it keeps escaping me this one direction I want to go, but I really want to go there. And that would, okay. So for all of us, with any sort of ministry or in any sort of place of art, when you find a certain level of success or you find a certain level of resonance within a tribe, and it's and so now there's not just resonance, but there's maybe an expectation. Hey, this is Godfrey Birtill. This is who he is. This is what he does. And so this is what we're going to expect from him. Sometimes that can be great, but sometimes it can be frustrating when you feel like there's more to you than what's being communicated in the present with your art or with the direction that you're going. The question would be, do you feel empowered to go whatever direction your heart wants to go, or do you sometimes feel like a certain amount of pressure to create a certain kind of art based off of what's been received in a previous season?
Okay. Pressure I don't feel.
Good.
I look at the gathered congregation as the band, and I tend to go with what I'm seeing and maybe push the edge of what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
But I go all kinds of places. I've been to quiet Anglican churches, Catholic gatherings, and some of the wildest crazy things in the UK, like in Wales, like we've done, and stuff like that. And so people could see me in a little Anglican church, they'll see a different me.
Wow.
I kind of work with what I'm seeing.
Wow.
And you know, and so I may go to a little Anglican church and just do hymns.
Wow.
You know, and then I'll maybe with the wild crazy folk, and you know, I can run with that. You know. So
do you feel like you're having not having to, but do you feel like it's part of what you like to do is to come into an atmosphere and kind of to discern what's kind of in that atmosphere and serve that atmosphere? To
flow with what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I always, you know, look at I often say to the folks, you know, you're in the band. You've all passed the audition. You know,
wow.
Don't look at the band. You are the band.
Wow.
You know, and so that we're together. You know, I think I said last time with the podcast with you, I don't look at myself as a worship leader. I used to be a worship leader, I think years ago, you know, and I used to lead like a worship team in a church and stuff like that, and I knew how to press all the buttons and all that stuff. I'd learned how to do it.
Yeah.
But about 10 years ago, I came to a different place, and it was like the Lord was showing me, I want you to leave some of the stuff you've learnt. You know, I resolved to know nothing. Yeah. You know, while I was with you, except Christ and Him crucified, and things changed, and I think what it changed to was to become from a worship leader to a proclaimer. So a lot of my songs are proclaiming the good news, and the songs written from this side of the cross,
Yeah.
you know, and so it became different. There's worship within that. Like I say, our lives are worship anyway, you know.
Amen.
And our worship is a two-way conversation, I believe, as well. You know, it's some of my songs I'm singing like Father's singing to us, you know, and so it's two-way. We're listening as we're singing, you know, things did change, you know, 10 years or so ago, you know, and that kind of it changed my route in a way, because people expected me to be this person I used to be, where I used to lead warfare and stuff like that, and lots of weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth and stuff, and suddenly there's joy in my songs.
You used to do hell worship.
And it was like, you know, what's happened? And some people weren't happy with that, and some people might have expected me. We brought you in to do this weeping, wailing, warfare stuff, and suddenly it's all about, you know, the wine is alive, you know, drink deep. You know, hey, have you heard the shocking truth, you know? And suddenly it's all gospel.
Yeah.
And
good news worship.
And I'm not saying the other stuff was wrong. I'm not saying, I have no comment on that, you know, and it was part of my adventure at that time. But for me personally, I felt the Lord had brought me to this place to be a proclaimer.
Amen. Yeah.
And
amen.
so a lot of my songs are mini preachers in a way, you know, that they have the message.
That's right.
The message is Christ and Him crucified and His resurrection power, you know, and that's what I'm on fire with, you know, and if people say, what are you singing today? That's all I want to see, you know, that's all I want to sing, you know. I'm not talking about this, that, and the other, you know, and a million and one side shows. I'm central on Christ and Him crucified, and on this amazing message of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, you know. And that's what I'm on. That's what I'm all about, man. You know.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. The
other stuff is interesting, but I'm not interested anymore. You know.
Does it ever try to pop its head back up?
Well, occasionally, you know, my wife, Gill, you know, because we work together a lot, she writes with me sometimes, you know, and Gill was heavily involved in the whole spiritual mapping, heavy duty intercession stuff, big time. You know, she was well into that, leading teams all over the UK and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we had such a fresh start, you know, a decade back, you know. And, you know, I think we could drive into any city back in those old days, and we could spot things, you know. We always, look at that, you know, that's a Masonic sign, we'll have to deal with that before tonight's meeting, you know, and stuff like that, you know. We could spot the demon a mile off, you know what I mean? And what happened, I think, 10 years or so back, was that we began to look differently, we began to see differently.
Amen.
And instead of looking for negative, we'd see positive.
Amen.
And not only for places, but for people, you know.
Wow.
Used to be good at being able to spot the problem.
Yeah.
But now we don't spot the problem, we spot the person.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
the God potential, no matter how far gone they are. And that's why I now go in bars and sing the gospel in bars, go in psychiatric wards. You know, I'm not looking for the problem. Some people want to come to psychiatric wards with me, and I think I couldn't allow it, because I'm sensing they want to do deliverance, you know, and do a few shabbas, you know what I mean, to come out kind of thing, which would do so much damage.
Wow,
you know, when I
right.
go in the psych wards and in bars, you know, I'm not doing deliverance. You know, I'm singing the love of the Father, singing the love of Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, and that's in itself is the deliverance.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's really good, because joy brings so much deliverance.
Yeah.
When your paradigm is completely joyless, and all of a sudden you smile. I mean, that's like the fruit of wonderful deliverance, getting set free from fear and whatever else.
That happened once in one of the psychiatric wards that I went in. There was one ward where they didn't want me to go in because they'd had a lot of trouble. There'd been a lot of violence and stuff, and they didn't want me to go in, but they eventually allowed me in. And sure enough, I went in this ward, and it was a scene of chaos. There were people lying on the floor weeping and stuff, and it was just chaos. And I started to sing with my guitar, walking around, just singing. And just the atmosphere is changing, you know. And those who've been crying suddenly look up, you know, and some start smiling, and just singing, do you believe what I believe about you? Like Father singing to them, you are beautiful, so precious too, you're irreplaceable and unique, created for this intimacy, forever we belong together. And just singing to them with love in your heart, with that amateur sound of Father's love.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Godfrey, when you're out and about, do you listen to music in order to find a certain amount of flourishing within your own soul, and when you're out and about and you can have anything on, and I don't know if you're like a Spotify guy or if you're into records or cassettes or what, but cassettes. 8-track,
I'm into vinyl actually. I like the thing of coming. My sons collect vinyl.
You're into vinyl, yeah.
Well, I'm not personally, but my sons are really into vinyl, and they've got a lot of.
I guess my question is what kind of music when you listen to really makes you come alive? Really, just makes you enjoy. Set and setting and story, and it just makes you feel like I'm a human being having this incredible experience on the earth. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. Do you know, when I was a kid, I think the first record I had was like pot, you know what I mean? It was like a vinyl, but it was like hard vinyl, and it was Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. And I played that thing over and over again when I was a little lad, and through my teens and stuff and 20s and stuff, I was like a vinyl addict really. I was listening to music all the time, and throughout my life really. But the last while or so, the last maybe 20 years or so, I don't really listen to a lot of music. Actually, it's a strange thing. Occasionally I do, or occasionally I'll hear something I like. I find myself revisiting some of the stuff I used to listen to years ago. Like my favourite band were the Kinks, and so I find myself listening to some of their stuff again, more in a sort of like memories way. Oh, I remember that. And just recently I was listening to some of Cat Stevens stuff.
Okay.
And some really good stuff. There's a song, oh very young, what will you leave us this time, and stuff, and lots of the old stuff really. But I don't listen to a lot, I must admit. I listen to the radio, people talking, like
you like
Radio
that,
4.
like talk radio, like political type stuff, or
sorry,
you listen to like political conversations and stuff on the radio.
Radio 4, and we have talk radio in the UK, and LBC, which is like phone-ins and stuff. And,
What happened? So
I like silence actually.
Silence. What's that? Tell me more. Tell me more. I'm intrigued.
I very rarely listen. It's not weird. I've not thought about that, but I don't listen to a lot of music. I certainly don't listen to worship music.
Yeah. No. Heavens no. Hey, what happens to Godfrey Birtill in his when you're around R&B or hip hop or that like different kinds of genres and that kind of thing? Is there an appreciation for rap, for example?
I don't really get that. I appreciate the skill of it.
Sure.
It's not something I'd listen to.
Sure.
The occasional thing comes through. I don't know what it's called though, but there was one. Is it Stormzy? A guy called Stormzy?
Maybe. I'm not a big.
I mean, he's really massive.
I look like it, but I look gangster.
He did a song recently I thought was
Stormzy.
Yeah, there's a song called "Blinded by Your Light" or something.
Oh wow, okay.
Really powerful.
I'll look it up. Yeah.
Just the odd thing will come through, and I think, oh, that's good, But yeah, from being a kind of music addict almost in my youth, now I really appreciate silence.
Yeah.
But I love playing music. I absolutely love writing and playing it.
And if you could play music anywhere, the most inspiring kind of serene kind of setting, just you and your guitar, what does that look like? Do you have a favorite place back home where you go just to kind of escape with your guitar and write or think or meditate musically?
I have my, well, you'd call it an office maybe, and I have a big leather chair that I sit in. And again, quietly. It's my place where I just sit there quietly and look out the window over the fields, and I play there, and often, I read scripture there, and it's where I just sit and listen, to the encouragement of the Lord. Encourage yourself in the Lord, and and I'll play my guitar there, in that room I have my acoustic guitars and stuff, so I guess that would be, Well, but I love this concept, if you call it concept, of the congregation being the band, playing with the band.
Yeah.
I love playing with a good band sometimes, though sometimes it's hard work because you need a lot of rehearsal time to get it right. And usually people who aren't musicians just think you can throw anybody together and it doesn't really matter. But that isn't the case. It's a lot of work sometimes, I mean, I was with a band in Ireland recently, though, in Northern Ireland, and they were just brilliant because they'd learnt all the songs beforehand, and they were just a fantastic band, and there was no one in there overdoing it, if you know what I mean. And so it went really well, but it's not always like that. So a lot of the time I prefer to just look at the congregation as a band, and we're in this together, sort of, and I'll play with a kick drum and guitar, and which is just facilities to keep us in tune, and go for it that way,
Yeah, in fact, I had a conversation with Steve Swanson when he was here about how intimate and how interconnected, I mean, music is. Like when you make music with somebody, it really is such an intimate kind of a moment where there can be connection, but oftentimes just people aren't approaching music with that kind of maybe appreciation or gravity or whatever else, that sometimes and so I talked to him about this place of going from church to church and having to work with band to band, and if you would rather work with, and even his own philosophy regarding working with professionals in a church setting that don't necessarily have a relationship with Jesus. They're not necessarily like subscribing to Christianity, but there is an incredible place of honor, appreciation, gravity towards the art of music, and what his own philosophy is in coming into different settings and working with people that are professionals, and so it was a really interesting conversation because especially in different size cultures and in different venues, when it comes to churches, sometimes you can get certain levels of excellence depending on the size, but also with a larger size venue can come more restriction and maybe even less freedom. So you can have, so I understand why sometimes it's easier just to come in and be like, hey, I'm just gonna do it, and then that way I get to create the atmosphere and go wherever the Lord leads us and that kind of thing.
I mean, it just really helps if, the musicians you're playing with, if they, first of all, they can hear, they're listening while they're playing, but also if they've really learned this stuff beforehand. You often, I've been some places where, I don't need to hear the songs, I can just follow you, and it often doesn't work that, and, you sometimes, there's such a person, there's, a grade 20 zillion or whatever on the keyboard, and often that can be the worst. So often the simplest keyboard player can be better, and, but hey, that's all a bit technical.
Well, I mean, what do you feel like is the primary role of a musician? I think really musicians who can hear and are listening and have that heart where they don't want to show off on their instrument, they're not playing 50 notes when 3 would do, and stuff. How
like
many
that.
notes per minute can you play? Yeah. I was talking to my kids about it because my kids have been through piano lessons, and so they know how to chord and stuff, and talking to them about playing in a worship setting, and this idea that, well, I'm not good enough. And what's interesting about good is, well, how do you define good? And I think a lot of times with piano, for example, a lot of people define good on the piano as how many notes per minute you can play, but really the role of a musician is to serve
sensitivity,
the atmosphere and the leader, and to not be a distract. I mean, I think if anyone's looking at you on, you know, it should be because you've been empowered by the leader of that environment for that moment. But people should not be watching you the whole time, you know, because that just means that you're probably just. So I think, you know, to be good is to be simple, and like you said, to really be listening and to supporting and serving and doing just the least amount required in order to create this. You know,
it's the old less is more. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of the time.
Yeah. And are you recording anything right now? Are you writing stuff right now?
No, I mean, there's always.
You're always kind of working.
You know, just on my way here, something came to me, you know, and
what was it? What came to you?
What came to me?
What was it, Godfrey?
Well, there was one back in the room I'm staying in, just about the echo, about the echo of the Spirit of God, you know.
Awesome.
So that's come. That's how songs come to me. They come in nuggets that I develop, you know. On the way here, what was it on the way here? I can't remember. I've got it though. I made.
And you have like a journal that you're taking notes with
it's on my phone recorder. You know, I just record it.
Oh, great! Like a sound recorder.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and then I'll go and visit it later, and then you know, work on it.
One of the things I just appreciate the most about just this conversation is really that place where we started this conversation of that Gill shared with you. Hey, you know, maybe it's time just to enjoy just a moment of rest, because so many times we were talking about this on the way back from the airport yesterday. So many times it takes some sort of external intervention or crisis in order to make us lay down in green pastures so the Lord can restore us, you know. And I think that any time that we can be our own disruptor, or we'll listen to our spouse, you know, I mean that's such a wonderful place where we choose to, hey, I'm just gonna, you know, we can take a break here, and it's not, and Jesus ain't gonna get mad at us, you know. The world isn't gonna go to hell because we're gonna celebrate a season of Sabbath, you know. And so I just really appreciate just you guys, you know, relaxing a little bit and reevaluating and just looking at everything, and then also just having the ears to hear and the sensitivity, like hey, I put a new element in you, you know, hey, why not, you know, go for it again for a season. I think that just the freedom to be able to do that, it's very empowering.
Yeah, I think it did me good. It's done me good to kind of just take some time aside, you know. I think you'd probably call it semi-retirement, or semi, as you say, retirement, you know. And I'm actually enjoying getting older, actually.
Are you?
Yeah, I recommend it. I mean, as Leonard Cohen
what
said...
What is it about getting older that's like enjoyable?
Well, the one negative part, Leonard Cohen said in one of his songs, I ache where I used to play. You know, and that does happen to some of us. But yeah, I enjoy it. You know, I'm enjoying being older. Gill and myself, you know, and with grandkids and everything, it's wonderful. You know, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, you guys are so cute. I mean, I just appreciate you guys, you know, watching. I'm sad she wasn't able to come on this trip with you. I love watching her while you lead worship.
Oh, she works with me. Yeah, she's really in the band. Yeah. Do you know it's one of the funny things that she doesn't actually what you'd call sing in tune.
Oh,
you know, she hasn't got an ear.
Okay.
But she is the best person to play a song to get a critique on, you know.
Oh, really?
One because she's honest, you know. But two, she can just tell if a song's going to work.
So she's kind of like your executive producer.
Oh, I play all my songs to Gill, you know, and she will say, you know, if there's something in there that's been sung a million times before in other songs, anything like that. That'll have to go, you know. We don't want to be singing that again, you know. She's painfully honest, you know. And I recommend to songwriters, you know, have someone to critique your songs, preferably that likes you, you know.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's painful sometimes, you know. I think, you know, some songs she's ripped apart, you know? And I thought maybe she's just in a bad mood, you know. But she's right. You know, 99% of the time. There's been one or two occasions where I've kind of overridden where she's thought it's not worked, and a dangerous thing to do, but
Well, I can tell that she's one of your biggest fans, and it's so much fun just watching her and just dance. Usually she's right in the front, right, almost in front of you.
Well, when she's with me at places, that's where I wanted to be, and sometimes, I don't like actually being on platform. I like being on the same level as the people usually, and sometimes I'll lean to her and communicate. What do you think?
Wow.
Where's it where we're going?
Wow.
Because she can sense that, so she will often advise the song, like to go to, and, or not to, whatever, and which works really well, because she's very sensitive to what's happening in the room, Yeah.
Yeah, that's rich. That's amazing. Well, so appreciate you, Godfrey, and I so appreciate you coming back to Seattle and even diving into some of these conversations with you. You're an artist, which I so appreciate. You honor the craft, and yet you also have such grace with people and such a heart to minister to people. And so, thank you for just the collection and body of work that you've made. I mean, the earth is far more blessed because of your contribution musically and just with even your message. I know you also speak, you don't just sing, but just what you've been able to contribute to the body of Christ has been tremendous. So thanks for coming to Seattle. Thanks for making time to have this conversation. And I've
loved it. It's been great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Love coming here. Great place.
And it's going to be a fun weekend.
Oh yeah.
We're just getting warmed up. And of course, I'll just encourage everybody listening, watching, to check out the show notes. We'll put links to all Godfrey's stuff, and so buy all Godfrey's stuff and you'll be blessed.
Absolutely.
All right, much love.